Hey, Chuck here with thehesitanthomesteader.com, and today I'm going to walk you through our nice slow cooker pot roast recipe. You'll find that online at thehesitanthomesteader.com. Basic walkthrough here of our ingredients. We have a 3-pound chuck roast. That's what I like to use from the front of the beef. 3-pound chuck roast. We've got carrots. I've peeled these. You can certainly scrub them if you prefer. Also have celery. 1 onion, that's kind of like our family's tolerance. In our recipe has 1 onion, but you can certainly go more than that. You can use white, yellow, or sweet. This happens to be a yellow Spanish onion. That's just our preference. It's kind of a middle of the road. We've got 4 cloves of garlic, and we've got some fresh herbs. We're using rosemary and thyme today. So our first step is going to be slice up our carrots and our celery, and we're going to put all of these in the bottom of the slow cooker. You might be asking, how come there's no potatoes? That's because we are doing this paleo low-carb friendly. So instead of potatoes, at a different recipe here that's attached, we'll be showing you how to make roasted mashed cauliflower. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I like to slice these on a bias, about an inch and a half on the diagonal. And then we're going to go right into the slow cooker, the crock. I like cooking this on low, so it's going to take 8 or 9 hours. And so over that length of time, I like to have larger pieces of vegetable so that they will cook through at the appropriate amount of time and tenderness, because I don't want to have mushy vegetables. Trim the ends off here. And I always like to keep, when I do my prep work in the kitchen, just like to have a bowl, and we can save all of our usable scraps, and that can go in your compost. Or what we're excited about is this spring, we're going to be getting our first batch of chickens. And so at some point, instead of this going into compost, this will go out into the compost bin of the chicken yard and let them eat that. So take our carrots again, we'll slice those similarly on the bias, about 1.5 inches. Nice big chunks. If you prefer, you could certainly put these in larger pieces. Like some people would want to have them whole, or you could take something that size and split it. It's really how you prefer to have it. For this recipe, because we're going to serve this either on top of or next to mashed cauliflower, I like to have smaller pieces that are a little bit more bite-sized. And just sprinkle those in the bottom. Nice even layer. Next, we're going to do our garlic. Now this calls for 4 cloves. I've got 3 of them here that are already prepped, and we're going to mince these, but those are here. Just a little tip, when you get your cloves of garlic, the easiest way that I have found is on the end there's like the little bud where it comes out of the head of garlic. I snip that off, and then I just take the garlic, put it down with my knife, and just smack it with the palm of your knife. And then it lets the skin just kind of fall right off. And that's pretty easy. And then we'll go ahead and get these minced up. We're actually not going to put the raw garlic in the slow cooker crock. We're going to mince this up, and we're going to saute this with our onions. So give me a minute and we'll get this garlic all prepped up. All right, now if you have a garlic press, feel free to use that. We're going to set this aside for our next step. Okay, next is our onion. We're going to do I'm going to do a medium dice on this, medium to maybe on the little smaller side dice. Cut off opposite the root end first, leave the root end intact because that'll hold all of the pieces of the onion together. Cut that in half. And we'll peel the outer layer of skin off. Okay. Now, if you don't want to dice this or you don't feel comfortable dicing, you can certainly do slices, and then it's just going to look a little bit different in your crock pot. It's a little bit of brown on the inside of this. I'm just going to cut that out real quick. Okay. All right, then we're going to go through with the palm of your hand on the top and just slice through nicely. And then down vertically. And then back through the top. You don't want to eat that. And then this is all set right here. We're going to just go ahead and slide these in. Okay, so our garlic and onion we're going to set aside, and we're going to saute those in just a minute. And then last, while I'm here doing prep work, is going to be our fresh herbs. If you don't have fresh herbs, feel free to use dry, but you will probably use about half as much. Dry herbs are a lot more potent, but I find that fresh herbs really have a truer flavor of what that herb would really be like. So we're using thyme and rosemary. I've already got thyme leaves stripped off. If you're using fresh, you just take the stem and you go at the top and pull down up against the leaves, and it will just strip those leaves off. Thyme is a tender herb, so if you do get a little bit of the stem at the tip, it's not a big deal because that will cook down. Rosemary, on the other hand, is a woody herb, and so you want to go the same way, but do not leave any of the stem in. And we'll put these together. And we'll just mince these up a little finer because nobody wants to get one of these stuck in the teeth. Right in. All right, we're going to take a break, switch positions so you can see the stove, and the next step is we're going to brown this. In the recipe, you can either broil it or you can do it on your cooktop. So I'm today going to show you how to just brown this on a skillet. But if you have a broiler, just read through the instructions on the printed recipe. All right, we are back. Phase 2 of our slow cooker recipe for our pot roast. And right now we're going to brown our chuck roast. So I'm choosing to do this on a skillet on the stove top. This is an electric smooth top. You might have something different, but we're going to do this at a pretty high, like a medium high heat. So mine goes from 2 to 10, and I've got it on 8, just to give you an idea. I like to do a little bit of oil, not a lot, because I really want to get a nice brown on this. And so we're just going to put just a little bit in. And you can see it really start to smoke, and then we're going to go right in. Now the key to getting your chuck roast or any meat that you're browning to brown really good is to dry it off. You didn't see me do that, but I'll use paper towels to do that and then just pitch them. This was pretty dry because we bought this earlier today at the grocery store. It was in the display case. It had not been wrapped. So in that display case, it had been kind of dried down a little bit. But if you have moisture on it, the moisture will kind of boil and evaporate and steam, and that's not what you want. You want a good dry surface. I also chose not to salt and pepper it. I'm going to do that after the fact. So just kind of, we'll push down on that, make it a good contact. Now this particular piece of chuck roast did not have a lot of excessive fat around it. If there was, trim it to like maybe 1/8 of an inch. It'll just make it easier to brown, and then when you cook it, it's less fat that you're actually going to skim off when the pot roast is finished. Not all pot roast recipes will have you brown it. Some recipes, maybe you've done it this way yourself. You just put it right in. There's nothing wrong with that. It'll certainly cook that way. And sometimes if you put a really low level of liquid in your crock pot, in your slow cooker, it will brown at the top anyway. I like to brown it ahead of time because I think that gives you the best uniform flavor. Because that's what you're trying to do. A slow cooker does a great job of moist, even heat, but it does not develop that flavor. It does not do that caramelization in the protein. So that's what we want to do. So we're going to poke underneath here and see what that looks like. And so that's exactly what we're looking for. Just go ahead. And we'll do a couple more minutes on this side. I'm going to turn the heat down to probably 4, so that would be like at the lower end of medium. And then in the same pan, we're going to add our onions and our garlic. And we're going to saute those for probably 3 or 4 minutes to the onions, but they'll stay translucent, which just means they go from that opaque white to more of a clear color and they get soft. We're not looking to brown them, we're just going to sweat them, as they would say. And then when we do that, the moisture from the onions, we're going to use that and scrape up the what they call the fond. That's the brown that sticks to the pan. That's a lot of good flavor, and that's what we want to use to develop good flavor in our pot roast. We'll even go around the edges on this as well. Go ahead and turn that down to a just below medium. I'm at number 4 on mine. And we're going to go right in on top of our vegetables and our fresh herbs in there. And then this is where we're going to put in a little bit more olive oil. Probably 2 tablespoons, I'd say. Right when you get those in there, go ahead and you want to scrape up the bottom as best as you can with that liquid that it gives off. Now we're not looking to brown these onions or caramelize them. What we want to do is just sweat them to get the cooking like a jump start to develop a little bit of flavor, because really they're going to finish cooking a lot further in the about 8 hours that's going to be in our slow cooker. So to stop them from browning, obviously keep your heat to that medium or medium low, and then just keep them moving. This will take a couple more minutes, and then when we get it to the point where what we consider translucent and they've sweated down, maybe I'll bring it up closer to the camera and you can get a better look at that. All right, and I think we are at where I'm happy with them. Turn this down, maybe take them a little closer, and you can see that they've gone from that bright white down to what they would say translucent, but they're certainly softer and cooked down, and that's where we want that to be. And so we're just going to go from here right in. And then we will spread that around. And then our final step is going to be adding our beef stock. You can use chicken stock or beef stock, or if you make bone broth, that would just make that even all the more richer. This is a larger roast, and we're using a larger slow cooker. So I'm going to use 2 cups of beef broth. We're just going to pour that right in. And really at this point, you're ready to go. We're going to just go ahead and get our slow cooker going. Set that right in there. We are going to put ours on low. Now I'm going to set this for 8 hours. When I tested this recipe the other day, it worked out great at about 8 hours. So at that point, what we'll do is we'll check it. And if it needs to go a little bit longer, I can certainly do that. But when this cooks all the way down, not only will the broth that I put in there provide liquid, but the vegetables and the meat itself are going to continue to release liquid. So you'll end up, if not with the same amount, probably a little bit more juice. And so what we're going to do is this is cornstarch. If you can't use cornstarch, then you could use arrowroot. It's either way. But for this particular recipe, I've got 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. And all you have to do with this is just do a very small amount of water to make a slurry. And I can show you real quick. I say slurry, I just added just a very small amount of water. You just want to make sure that this is all dissolved. And then when you get to the tail end, I'll just pour this in and then kind of mix it in with the juices, and then that will thicken it. And since I'm cooking on low, when I add this, I'm going to go ahead and bump this up to high so it cooks off any of the flavors of the corn or the arrowroot. And the other thing is the higher temperatures will activate the thickening properties of either cornstarch or arrowroot. So I'll put this in, put my temperature back up to high for about a half an hour, and then we'll be ready to eat.